Yes, today. I'm going to give you all just a little bit of history about the building and then about the organization. The organization is now 10 years old. Next month, in October, we will be going into our 11th year. I've been with them this month. I'll be starting on my 9th year with the organization, and it has grown rapidly. We have 2 employees now. The assistant director is here in the audience, Marlene, and best friends, Cindy and Danny Parker, and Danny serves on our board of directors as vice president. So we're all very pleased to be here, and oh yes, my husband, and my niece and nephew. So this is the family side. We had a post office building in Graham. Well, actually we had about 5 before they actually built the one that we're in now. The Butterfield Stagecoach came through Graham twice a week to deliver the mail, and that's how we got our mail. So when they actually established a post office in Graham, it was in 1873, and they had, the first postmaster was Julius Watson. He served 4 months. After that, they have 2 others that served a couple of months apiece. And then they appointed G.A. Graham in 1875, and he is one of the founders of Graham. And he stayed there until they built the new post office, which we're in. And that post office building was built during of course, the Great Depression. It was a portion of the New Deal. It was the second part of the New Deal, which started in 35 to 39. And GA served up until that time. Then they appointed Spencer Boyd Street, to the postmaster for that particular building. And he served several years. We have had 10 persons that served as postmasters in the Graham office, as well as several of the acting postmasters. The groundbreaking for the Art Deco style building was October 15th, 1935. It was built, of course, through the WPA, which is the Workmen's Progress Association, or administration, and the structure was projected to cost at least $65,000. And the actual cost of it was $62,000. And the construction time was estimated at 250 days, and it actually took them 225 days to complete. When they started this project, of course, jobs were very scarce. There was a lot of people that was looking for work, and each day they would come to work, and there would be people standing, and we are on the middle of a square. And people would be lined up on both sides of the building all the way around the square for jobs. And they would go out and ask for bricklayers, woodworkers, whatever they needed for that particular day. And if someone did not do a good job while they were working, they would tell them to leave. They'd go back outside and find someone else that would do the work. The building has an upstairs and has a full-size basement. And then the big open area where the postmaster has postmaster's, of course, front floor, your postmaster's office, and then the building where the workers were. It was constructed and opened on May the 28th of 1936, and the dedication ceremonies was on July the 7th of 1936. We have the Alexander Ho mural in the post office. We have a lot of people that comes in to see that. And during that time, that was one of the projects of the second New Deal, was to put some of the artists to work. So they have what we call the Dallas Nine, which I'm sure y'all have heard of. That was artists that banded together and worked together. And so when one would do a project, they all benefited from that project. And Alexander Ho was one of them. Jerry Bywaters, Otis Dozier, those 3 were some of them, the more famous of the ones that did the murals. And that was something that the post office general things that the post office administration they had decided that this was a way to keep them busy, keep them with a job, because they were having a very difficult time. So his is in Alexander Hogue's is, and it was a public work project. It features Spencer Boyd Street, the first postmaster. It also features G.S. Graham, and it is called Oil Fields of Graham, and it is just the oil field. That was what was prominent at that time, and that's what they were supposed to paint, was what was prominent in that area at that time. And our oil fields were coming into being. So it has the oil fields in the background, and then these people in the front. This picture, this piece of artwork, is wanted by the Smithsonian because there's not too many that has an industrial side to it. Most of them are something to do with Western, and this was one that was industrial. So the Smithsonian wanted, when the building closed in '92, they asked to get it, and the post office decided that they wanted to keep it there if the city of Graham was to purchase the building. And in '92, when the post office moved to its present location, some of the citizens of Graham decided that they wanted, were talking about it even before that, decided that they would like to have a museum and art center there. And so they formed a committee and began to look into that process. Well, as the story has been told to me, there was two little ladies at a social event, and they heard that the building was going to be going up for bid. And they immediately went to the Chamber of Commerce and said, "Is it going up for bid?" "Yes, it's going up for bid, and we have a law office, a law firm that's looking at buying it." And they just immediately went, "Oh, no, we don't want lawyers in the middle of the town." So they went and got another committee of the little ladies, and happened to be one of the wives of the outgoing mayor and the wife of the incoming mayor, and they converged on City Hall. And so the men kind of got involved in it, decided that, well, I don't think they're going to stop, so they proposed to buy the building, and the city of Graham was able to purchase it for $90,000. And then they started forming more committees to get it together. And it took several years for the completion to come about for the Museum and Art Center. In 1996, they had 200 members. They have raised enough money to bring in a consultant. They brought in Conover Hunt, museum planner and consultant from Dallas. And her first question was, when she met with the committee, "Where are the men?" And they said, "Well, we can't get the men involved." "Well, you have to get the men involved because there's no money. You ladies just can raise money, but you got to have the men involved." So they began to get some of the men involved, and they looked at Bruce and Boyd Street, and they were twins, and they had established themselves in Graham, and they have the Bertha Foundation. They support a lot of the programs, so they asked them to be on the committee. And they brought in Dennis Chapman, and he's the director of the Sam Rayburn Museum in Bonham, Texas. And he told them, he said, "Oh, this is a huge project." And everything he told them was probably a negative. And one of the ladies said, "Well, we weren't smart enough to listen to him. We just left there thinking, no, we're going to get this done. We're going to do this." So in the summer of '94, they had, with assistance of a certified public accountant, they established the Old Post Office Museum and Art Center, a nonprofit status under the Graham Fine Arts Council. And in February of '94, it was duly registered as the Old Post Office Museum and Art Center. They organize committees for, of course, their bylaws, constitutions. They added to their committees and kept meeting on a frequent basis to get things done. And in February of '95, they went to the city council and asked, can we meet in the old post office museum and art building? And so the city council, the mayor at that time, came to an agreement that yes, they would be able to use the old post office museum and art building. And it would be the institution there. They would be the organizers and they would be the keepers of the building. The city owns it, the city does have the insurance on it, but our organization and board of directors is the one that directs what goes on there and the events that takes place there. They established their first meetings and started getting their officers, getting their monies together, getting people together that was interested in this. They held quarterly board meetings, and then they began on the before party. And this was to establish the fundraising. And the before party was planned, and in June of '95, they held it. It was a 2-day event. It featured the artwork of John Inman. He was an art dealer and with galleries in Midland and San Angelo, Ardmore. The sculpture, Garland Weeks, and he had been recently, at that point in time, named the Texas Sculpture of the Year by Governor George Bush. And all of his work was on display. They had over 140 guests that enjoyed the exhibits. Gordon Brooks had played the music, and they got to look around at the old building, the way it looked, and it was in disarray. The floors were solid black from years of not keeping it. Of course, it still had the boxes in it, the post office boxes. So it was something that they could see, and their dream was to come true. The architect had drawn up plans, so they were able to see the plans of what it was to look like. And so in '95, in August of '95, architect Mark Stewart, which is a restoration artist from Houston, was hired to do the restoration work. And they began on the work in at the end of '95. And it took many meetings, of course, and it took many hours to get it restored. They took all the mailboxes out of the front foyer. When you walk into the front foyer, you will see the original, not the original doors, but you will see the original wood foyer and the doors that goes into the main lobby. That is all original. The floors are brown and tiles. They are original to the building. You will walk into the front entrance, has 2 entrances. You walk into the front foyer, you'll see the mural on your left side, and then you will see our entrance on the right side. They took all of the boxes out in the front and replaced those with glass, and that houses some of our permanent collections that we have. And then they made, of course, a large entrance, and that was the one thing that they did take out of the boxes and made the entrance into the large gallery. Now, the work area where the Postal Service is now our gallery. We have, in the last 4 years, it has large columns that go through it to support the building. So those columns now have walls or wings on those, which gives us more hanging space in the building. They were able to build another wall at the back, which was not original to the building. But everything else in this building is original. We were able to take in the dock at the back, and that's a work area, storage area where we come in, and a loading dock for us to use for our artists and for the guests that comes in, and that is where our handicap ramp is. Took 3 tries to get the handicap ramp right, where the state would approve of it, but we finally managed that, and it's very easy and very convenient for the people. Um, Finally, when everything was in place and it was ready to open, they decided to open on October the 2nd, 2002. And this coincided with the Texas Cattle Race Association's 125th birthday celebration. And it was very successful, and of course this was all done downtown on the square, and there was tons of people there. Everyone got to see. We had the Museum and Art Center. At that time, we had photography, Western art, but it was photography work of some of the ranches, and it was very, very nice. The museum's mission is dedicated to the development and the maintenance of history and fine arts for the education and enrichment of citizens of Young County and the area. Since that time, since we opened, we have had about 65,000 people come through. We have visitors from, of course, out of the country. We just had visitors from Brazil just this past week. We have what they call the Wild Cattle Ranch that's there now, and they market in Europe very heavily, so we have a lot of those people that comes in and visits with us, and they're always ready to see Western. They want to see cowboys. So we try to provide cowboys if we can, and we do have some Western things and some Western artifacts and Western bronzes and some pictures that they can see too. We have set up and displayed over 1,300 different exhibits. We have had the 50 years of Graham, which was a huge success, and that involved a lot of the families. The Graham High School Gridiron was another one that was very popular with people. Everyone that go to Graham High School and come back and see the memorabilia for that. Celebrating Western heritage, and that's one of the things that we do every September. We have one day set aside for Western heritage, but the Museum and Art Center sets up an exhibit for the Western heritage every year. The first year that I was there, I was new at this. A little gentleman walked in with a hat, striped vest, and some funny looking little pants and boots, and I visited with him a minute. He had given a program at the Lions Club that's next door to us. And he said, and I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do for Western heritage. And he said, oh, you may borrow my exhibit. Well, his exhibit, he was associated with the stockyards in Fort Worth. He was also the, I can't remember his title now. He was with Fort Worth, and he was the with the stockyards, and that's what he oversees now, and the Texas Cattle Hall of Fame there. His little exhibit consisted of about, I have no idea how many pieces. At his home, we selected 1,500 pieces. We had to go get a U-Haul truck, and there was, 3 families, Danny, I think, that went. We had 2 SUVs and a big vehicle, and we loaded it as much as we could get in the cars, and we put out 1,500 pieces in 2 weeks to get it set up. But it was one of the most beautiful exhibits that we've had there. And this was Doug Harmon. He is very, very prominent in the Fort Worth area. I did not know him, so when I asked the president of the board if it was okay if we took his collection, and he just kind of laughed, and he said, yeah, Marlene, that's Mr. Fort Worth. So it was a great exhibit and a great experience, and we made a great friend through Doug, and he still supports us and still comes in, and anytime we need any of his things, he's always ready for us to take them. Of course, we promote the Texas Cattle Race Association because it was started in Graham under the oak tree, and the oak tree has since been blown away, but they do have a monument there for that. The exhibits that we have some permanent, and then we have rotating exhibits. There are a constant source of the Graham Independent School District, Open Door School, and homeschoolers. And each year, the Visual Arts Department at Graham High School comes in, and they have a huge exhibit each April. And that's always very successful for us, and it's very nice to see the young people that are interested in the artwork and take part in this. The exhibit committee consists of 4 people that designs and displays 12 or more history and art exhibits a year. And so, of course, our permanent existing, we change the permanent collection probably every 6 to 8 months, so that people when coming in, and especially the area people, they won't see the same thing all the time. The board encourages everyone to use the building. We have art classes, workshops. We have receptions. In fact, they're having a reception there today. We've had one wedding. We have club meetings. We have 2 clubs that meets there. We have served lunch to the Tarleton University group. The museum is very active in all the functions in Graham. We try to stay active. We work with the CVB there on a regular basis and try to keep the tourists coming into Graham. The Museum and Art Center has been very successful in this. We have promoted Graham well, and they promote us. We still get, though, people coming in to mail. In fact, Thursday, the gentleman came in to mail his letters. So that is something that people still haven't got used to, that they have a Museum and Art Center in Graham, and that's been 10 years. Are there any questions? Is there anything that y'all are interested in? Yes?
Do you have a full-time director?
I am the full-time director. I have been there 8 years, and then Jim is the assistant director. Yes.
That's good. That's good. Do you get a corporate support of any kind, or is it just donations from local people?
Most of our funding comes from memberships, which we still have memberships. Mm-hmm. We do fundraisers, and then during the art shows, we have a national art show that we just took down. We have the entry fees, we have work that comes from the sale of those, and of course, then local donations that come in. And matching funds, we have a lot of the matching funds projects, and then we have a small foundation.
Do you ever get grants? Do you get any art grants from the state or anything like that?
No. In the beginning, we did. It is a National Register building. It was registered in 1999, but we do not get. We have gotten one grant, and in the beginning, they did get a matching fund grant from the Texas Historical Commission.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it sounds marvelous. I think you've done a fine thing.
It's a beautiful building.
The arts are always, everybody wants to see them, but nobody wants to pay for them. See them go.
Well, we're running into that. We didn't have that problem up until probably the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. We had what they call an art splash that in the beginning, it evolved around the beginning of the Museum and Art Center in Graham. And it was volunteer complete, and they had an art splash, and it was the last part of May, it was one Saturday. And we did a big national art show and hosted it at the Museum and Art Center, and then there was something going on completed around the square. Well, it became so large that we didn't have enough volunteers for it, so they had to close that. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the resources that we would gain from, was sell the artwork there, and from them, and they would take the money and distribute it. The beginning was to give it all to the Museum and Art Center. And eventually they gained so much momentum that they felt like that they needed to disperse it to other organizations. So the Museum and Art Center always benefited from it, and we always hosted it, but we didn't always gain all the profits from that. But most of our funding comes from our local area citizens.
What is your population?
Close to 9,000 on a regular basis.
That's pretty impressive that you have been able to do this. And Graham isn't on the beaten track, is it?
No, you have to be coming to
You have to
Graham.
want to go there.
You have to be coming to Graham to want to
Yeah.
come to Graham. We have a tremendous amount of tourism. And like I said, it's from the marketing. Our CVP, Main Street Director, is wonderful with marketing. She does a great job with that. Our Chamber of Commerce is wonderful. So we have a lot of marketing out there all over the state of Texas, well, actually all over the United States, really, that we gain from. And they always include the Museum and Arts Center because we are part of the tourist attraction now. And we try to keep, Danny's in charge of the exhibits. He and Jim work together on that. And we try to keep exhibits that people, fresh exhibits, named artists, so that people will want to come to Graham and drive to Graham to see it. We have a lot of people from the Metroplex, tremendous amount of people from the Metroplex that come in, a lot of Oklahoma people that come in to visit. And we have started this was our third year called the Texas Spirit Art Show. We started that 3 years ago. So that brings a lot of artists in, and you get acquainted with some of the artists, and therefore then you can go to some of your exhibits from that.
That sounds great.
Well, it's a beautiful building. We would love to have everyone come and visit with us. They did a fabulous job on restoring it and keeping everything that is original. The floors, when I started taking all of the muck and all the stuff off the floors, it was a light oak. It is just gorgeous. And we just recently got a new roof. We had some leaking problems, and so we were fighting that all the time. But we have a new roof on the building now, and so that problem has been solved for us. And that was through donations. The roof was. The museum had to put very little capital into it.
Do you have what we used to call a slideshow presentation? Now it would be much more sophisticated than that with a computer. Do you have anything like that?
We have a friend that has, yes, we do, and we can have, and that's one more thing that we are going to be adding to. We've just got a new speaker system that was brought to us yesterday that we will be installing. These things, it takes time. When someone sees the need for it, or when the word's put out. When I first started, we didn't have a whole lot. We had two directors before me, and they both resigned. And it was kind of tight. It was hard work. And I would ask for things for the kitchen or whatever we needed, and they would be coming in the front door or the back door. So I soon found out, don't ask, because you're going to have abundance. Our community's been great, and they have really supported it, and I think they enjoy it.
I'd like to say something too. When we were right at closing the doors when she took over as director, and she worked for a year without any salary. I'm talking 8, 10, 12 hours a day, weekends and everything. So.
Well, it's a great project, and we all wanted it to work. And so it wasn't, I mean, that wasn't a hard decision to make. But I had a lot of support. I still have a tremendous amount of support. Our board is wonderful. Through the years, I've changed, but it's always been such a supportive board. And anytime that I need anything, or anytime I have a problem, all I have to do is call, and they're there. So we're fortunate. The organization itself has been very, very blessed. In fact, I think we had a long discussion about that yesterday, that how blessed this building and this organization has been over 10 years.
I believe if you had an audio-visual presentation to go with your talk, you could quadruple your support from around the country.
Well, it does, yes. We're all visual now, and we're used to that.
Everybody
So,
is.
yes. And that will be the next thing that we're going to try to put in place then. We are going to be having more meetings for the city. There's not many places in Graham for people to meet now. And this is something that I work with the CPB on. And we are going to be having more of the small meetings, and they are going to be advertising, having small meetings there. Our new assistant director is a fabulous cook. So we're enjoying that. So this is going to be something that we're going to be looking at, is having catering service in with the meetings and try to pull some of those in for the city, because they are not, they can't find any place. We have a couple of places, but they're far too expensive for people to use. So that's what we're going to be doing. And that's some of the things that we're going to be implementing next year.
Well, you've already made me want to go.
Yes.
I wanted to ask if you have received any funding from the Texas Historical Foundation, not the commission.
I'm sorry.
Have you gotten any funding from the Texas Historical
We did
Foundation?
in the beginning. We got a matching grant from them in the very beginning, and I think it was in '95.
Okay, are you talking about the commission or the foundation?
No, the
They're
commission.
separate.
They're
They're separate
Texas Historical
entities.
Commission. No, not from the foundation. No, we have not received, no.
If you have a project that you're working on that you need funding, you could apply to the foundation, which might be able to help you.
Yeah.
And I know, well, my brother's on the board, so.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
familiar with
Talk
it.
to you.
Yeah, you meet her after.
Right. Wonderful.
I've gone to some of their functions, and
Okay.
I think about once a year, they review the applications and you know, give out money, and I think they give out quite a bit. So if you have you know, a big project, like maybe this audiovisual thing,
Yeah, that would be great.
if you need help with that.
Well, we've got over the years, we're also members of the Texas Sports Trails. So anytime that we do an exhibit that's a historical exhibit that has something to do with the Texas Sports Trails, then we get a small grant from them for that. So we have the Quantum Park or the traveling exhibit there, and they sponsored that for us. So yes, there is monies out there. You just kind of have to know where to go, and sometimes you have to know who to go to rather than just putting it out there. We've enjoyed what we've done. We're looking forward to some great years. We're working on our exhibits for 14 and 15 now. And so we hope that everyone will come visit us and come to Graham. We will show you a good time. If not, we'll take you out to lunch. We have some great places on the square to go eat. So
Good.
thank you.
What are your hours?
Our hours, we're open from Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 4. You can call us anytime and someone will show up to open the building and let you in. That's something that we've tried to do is accommodate people. I know our hours are short, but Graham doesn't have a lot of traffic on the weekends. In fact, there's no traffic in Graham on the weekends. So I stay open for several months on Saturdays, and might have one person, may not have anybody come in. So we chose to do it this way, and we are talking about maybe doing 5 days a week right now. So since we have extra help that we can kind of work together on this, we may do the 5 days a week. But it's 9 to 4, but anytime that you're coming to Graham and it's on a weekend, if you'll call and let us know, be more than happy to meet you there and take you through the building and show you what we have there and what we've done. Thank you so much. I appreciate this, and I love this complex. I brought a few little brochures if you're interested in some pictures of the post office look. Thank you.